Welcome to the Vigridr tutorial where we will be going over the cards and the playmat. Alright, so in Vigridr there are many types of cards. We have champion cards, which are going to be two-sided. They're going to have their legacy printed on the back of the card. We're going to get into that in a second. Then there are quest cards. These are the cards that let you win the game. There's also units. So these are like your armies. You also have relics, which are kind of like artifacts, powerful weapons and armor. You have spells. And you have lands and missions. It's pretty much all of the card types in the game. Okay? So we're going to start with, how do you win the game? Well, it's quests. You're going to have 2 quests in every single deck. And you notice they're all 6-sided cards, right? And so your quest is going to start on the first side, and when you fulfill this condition, you're going to rotate the card and it's going to tick up. And when you fulfill this condition, you tick it again and tick it again until you win the game. So you're going to have 2 different quests with every single one of these decks that you're going to be creating, and you're going to place them here at the top of your playmat. And we'll go over the playmat after.
So it goes on until the win conditions are all satisfied?
Exactly. You only need to get 1 win condition to win the game. But this is like 2 paths to victory.
Okay.
Okay? Next, we've got our champion, which is kind of the centerpiece of your entire playmat. So there's the name of the character. You've also got an attack and a defense number here. And you also have a number of runes that this card comes into play with. And here in this case is 2. And then you're going to notice it has different powers on different sides. So as it rotates, the powers are actually going to change. And it's going to have a different power every second tick. Okay? Now the amount of life it has is equal to 6 and the 2 runes. And each rune that you place on him, so let's say we're going to put these 2 runes on him. These are like hit points, if we're talking about, like, you know, in RPG or D&D terms. So if he takes 3 damage, you're going to tick him from a starting position, which is facing you, 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And now he's on this tick. This is his main ability. If he takes, let's say, 3 more damage, he would tick 1, 2, and 3. Now he's back to his original spot. Every time he comes back to original spot, you're going to lose 1 rune off of your champion. If he goes around again for another 6, he loses the 2nd rune, and then the final ticks, if he takes 6 more damage, he's gone. And he flips to his legacy side. Legacy means your champion has left the battlefield, but has left a legacy on the battlefield. And this is usually some sort of persistent effect that's usually weaker than what he was in life, or she, depending on the deck that you play. Okay? So these are the first 2 types of cards. The next type of card we can look at is creatures. Creatures have a casting cost. So at the start of each one of your turns, you get to choose to draw 2 things. You could draw 2 cards off the top of your deck. You could draw 2 runes from your bag at random. So every player starts with a full bag of 24 runes. Or you can choose to draw 1 card off of your deck and take 1 rune at random. Okay? Now, to cast this card here specifically, I would actually need 3 red runes in play, and I would have flipped them 1, 2, 3 to be able to summon this guy from my hand onto the battlefield. Okay? And I'll give you an example of a different type of creature that has maybe an easier casting cost with different colors. Let's see. All the top ones here are pretty big. Here's a small one. You've got a spirit wolf. So here all you need is 1 green rune that you would flip over to the other side to summon the spirit wolf. Now if you take a look at the creatures, they also have attack power, and sometimes they have defense, sometimes they have special abilities that like change the way they interact with other cards. They also have, sometimes, abilities on their sides, and then you're going to see a sword somewhere on the 6 sides. The sword means once this guy ticks past the sword, and he's facing you, he dies. Okay? And there are cards that heal units. So after he takes, let's say, 2 damage, he has an actually really interesting effect. This icon here says the moon is end of turn. It says heal all of your wolves to full health at the end of turn. So he would spin up again, and all the other wolves that you have on play would also heal to their max. Okay? So that's quests, champions, and units. Next, we're going to move to lands. Lands are cards that basically have an affiliation, a casting cost. Some of them come in for free, but their main goal is to give you more runes. So this one would bring in 4 runes. So you would actually take 4 runes out of your bag and put them on this card. So it would cost you 3 runes to put it into play, and it would give you 4 runes. And these 4 runes, again, you flip them over when you use them, and at the end of your turn, at the start of your next turn, they flip back, and you get to use them again the following turn. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. So now after the quest, we're going to look at missions. Missions are kind of like mini quests. Quests, when you complete them, you win the game. Missions, on the other hand, have conditions that you have to meet, but at the end, when you get to the last tick of a mission, it gives you a big payout. This one says draw 3 cards. So if I can meet these 3 requirements, I get to draw 3 cards.
And to balance it out, you just made sure that we had to do less for a lesser reward.
Exactly. You've got it. And then the last 2 cards get attached to units. And that's spells and relics. So they have casting costs. And things like relics will give you the unit next to it a persistent bonus. And so the playmat here is important where you place things. Because if you've got a unit, you're going to need to place a relic or a spell next to it. And then spells, you actually have to tick down to get their effects. So in this case, for this one, it's 2 to put it into play. Then you have to play 1 red rune, and it deals 2 damage to any champion in play. And then it ticks down. Red rune, 2 damage to any champion. Then it gets stronger. Red rune, 3 damage to any champion. Red rune, 4 damage to any champion. And then after that, it's got a sword. It leaves play. Same thing with lands. If you notice, they have a sword as well, because lands can take damage, or you can even tick down some of the lands. They have tick down abilities. So that's basically all of the card types that are in Vigridr. In the next video, I'm going to talk about how the playmat works. Alright, so this is the Vigridr playmat. Every single player gets one of these playmats. And a bag of runes, and a deck of cards. Minimum 40 cards. This is the top of the playmat that'd be facing other players, and this is where you put your quests. So when you start with 2 quests, they get placed at the top, so it's closest to the other opponents. They can see how close you're getting, what you need to do next to get a success. And then your missions, there's spots at the bottom here reserved for your missions. So when you draw your missions, they don't cost any runes to put into play. You can just drop them at the bottom of your playmat. Next,
assuming you draw them, right?
Yeah, exactly. Next, your champion lives at the center of your playmat. Where's my other champion card? There we go. Champion is here. And so this spot can only be occupied by the champion. When the champion dies, the legacy remains there. Alright? Now, the red area is only for units. So the blue cards. So there's a front line and there's a back line. The front line are the only units capable of attacking another playmat. And they can only be the only ones that get attacked. So any units that are placed on the back line are safe from being attacked. And your champion is protected from an attack as long as you have at least 1 unit somewhere in the front arc.
Okay.
Okay, because your opponent has to defeat your unit, and at this point, they can now attack your champion directly.
So why would you put them in the back here?
Because you might have some units that are actually very good in terms of doing something interesting. Like here it says, for 1 rune, you get to draw a rune from your bag and put it into play. And he's not very strong. He only has 2 hit points.
Oh.
3 hit points kills him. So you want to put the big, strong brutes in the front, and the other units that do really cool things in the back.
Ah, yeah, okay.
And there's a catch. There are some units and some equipment that allow you to attack units in the back arc. So they're not always immune. There could be some cards that allow another player to attack your back line. Okay,
Yeah.
so you have to be aware of that as well. Next is the black outer ring. And the black outer ring is where you're going to place your lands. So whenever you place, let's say, Burglemere, you're going to see he comes in with 2 runes at the start of the game. And then this land just came into play. So we would place runes over here. And remember how I mentioned in the previous video on how on the start of your turn you get to choose to draw 2 things. Either 2 cards, 2 runes, or a rune and a card at the start, right? Well here, if you choose to draw runes, you're going to place them on the side of your playmat. So eventually we're going to have a playmat that's got that whole little row here where all your runes come in. Now the advantage of having your runes on the side instead of on the cards is the cards can actually be destroyed. Someone can deal 6 damage to this land and you're going to lose 1 of your runes. And it can deal more and more damage. And eventually if they destroy this land, you've lost those runes. But the runes that you end up putting here on the side, if you choose to do so at the start of your turn, they actually can stick around because no one can target these runes. Alright? Now, on the outer ring, I said you can place lands, but you can also place relics and spells. Now, the one caveat with relics and spells is they actually have to be attached to a unit. Okay? So I couldn't place one here because I don't have a unit here. But the other downside for these, they're actually really powerful, they do a lot, but if you lose this unit and there's no other unit, you also lose the equipment or spell that's attached.
Ooh, risk reward.
Exactly. So sometimes you say, you know what, I'm going to put 2 units sharing this equipment. This way if I lose one of them, the equipment or the spell will remain in play. Okay? So that's pretty much the layout on the playmat and where your cards go. The only other last thing is that this space here can accommodate any card. So you could put a land here, you could put a spell here, you could put equipment here, and you can place a unit here. So this is kind of like the wild card. Right behind your champion is the wild card hex.
And then black, you can only place a land or a spell or an item.
That's right. You got it.
Okay.
And that's the playmat.
Very simple.
Thank you for watching.